Hey, this is James from Overhaul Internal Combustion. Scratchy throat. This is one of the 305 Chevy heads for the engine that's going to go into the El Camino temporarily. And I'm about to break this thing down and look it over and make sure that it's cool. I'm going to end up soaking this in the parts washer once the valves are out and the springs and everything else. But for right now, I just want to give it a look over and make sure there's nothing blaringly obvious that is wrong with this thing. This is a 1989 Chevy 305 head, so it's one of the newer castings, but I don't think it's as thin on the deck surface as the 96 and up Vortex. Usually where they get a crack is from this water passage down to the bolt holes. The last set that I originally had on my 350 that I bought, they were cracked, I think, on 2 or all 3 of the holes, but you could get a razor blade stuck in the crack. It was so big. So these are 3 areas that I'm going to look over. There's another water passage down here that's near, but I haven't seen any crack here, but I'll look at them anyway. Get yourself a piece of red Scotch-Brite, and I use brake cleaner, acetone, something like that. Just go over your areas real quick, and if you got any real bad cracks, it'll be completely obvious. You can see them with the naked eye. So after going over all these, I can clearly see the area. I don't see any like dirt line where there would be a crack. So these 3 areas look okay to me. I'm not going to bother cleaning down here. I mean, it's already relatively clean. But like I said, they're not really prone to crack here. It's more up in this area. The next thing I'm going to do is flip this thing over and get my valve spring compressor out and start to pull the valves out of this thing. Now, before I pull the valves out of it, I like to take a light hammer, just give the springs a tap. I'm not hitting on the valve stem here. I'm hitting here just to break some of the grease and the munge loose, because these heads have probably been on this engine together since it was brand new. So that should loosen the munge up, so when I get my valve spring compressor in here, it'll hopefully pop out easy and not get stuck. So let me get my tools together. Be right back. There's quite a few different valve spring compressors that you can use. I got the big clamp style that I picked up at Carlisle a couple years ago. This works great with the heads off. Can't use this at all with the heads on it, because you need to be able to get to the underside. That pin goes against your valve. This compresses it. You get your retainers out. These are the other kind you can use. These can go head on or head off. And you would basically put these fingers here, spin them around your valve, and you want to spin it onto your valve as low as you possibly can. That way when you compress it, you'll get the most compression out of it. This is one that we modified because we really got tired of hurting our fingers on the little thing. So Junior went ahead and ground the finger notches off of it. We put a socket into it, and we've had heads before where we've either done this with a ratchet or with our small DeWalt impact to compress the springs. So I'm going to set them to a side because I don't need them because the head's off, which is great. Pretty simple tool to use. Put it underneath in the center of your valve. Make sure you're sitting good. And you just give it a squeeze. And as you can see, this is one of the ones that's going to be a little bit stubborn. So we're going to give that a tap. There we go. Now it's compressing. And what you want to have handy is a magnet. Take a magnet in there and get your retainers out. Spin the other one around. Pull that out. So there's the keepers. Set them off to the side. press it down, pull the safety lock out, let off of it, and we have our first spring. Now this one is an exhaust, so we're going to set that all by itself. Go ahead and pull the exhaust valve out of it, set that with it. This is the old exhaust seal. This is why your engine, a lot of times on startup, it'll be a smoker, because these seals are basically so brittle you can almost crush them with your hands. This one's got a little ply left to it, but it wasn't sitting very good against the seat. That's trash because I got new ones. I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing on all the rest of the valves and pull them all out. Removed all the valves out of the head. I got them in my parts washer tray. The exhaust valves on both heads were shot. They're pitted up pretty bad. I'll show you one in a second. But when I put these in here, I put the valve in its spring. The exhaust valves have rotators on them. That's how you know the difference in a stock engine. This is the passenger side cylinder head, so it's 2, 4, 6, 8. So I went ahead and labeled my valves with tape. These aren't going to go, the tape isn't going to go in the pressure washer or in the parts washer solution, so these will be safe. I went ahead and labeled 3 of the valves because it's obvious what the 4th one is. So these will go ahead and they'll soak overnight with the head. So let me sit these out of the way and not knock everything over. Now back to the head. It's empty now. And what I still have to do to this to get it ready for the parts washer tank, you have to grab a pair of channel locks and get the seals out of here that the factory put in. And these can be a bit of a pain in the butt because they've been in here for a while. That came out easy. A lot of times they'll just be brittle and fall apart, and that's always fun. That one's going to be stubborn because I was just talking about them being stubborn. So there's that one. That one. And the last one. Okay, so now this head is completely stripped down. There aren't any valve stem seals in it. All the valves are out, the springs are out, so it's a bare head. And here is one of the exhaust valves I was talking about. I found the same problem on the other head. Let me get some light turned on here and show you what I'm talking about. As you can see, it's got some pitting going on around the outside edge. The intake valves don't have anything like this, and if I actually look at the valve seats are in great condition. It's just the valves took a beating. So once I lap these in, these are all going to be fine, but it needs to soak. It'll get the rest of it'll loosen the gasket material up. It'll loosen all the munge off of it. There isn't a lot of carbon in this thing, and there isn't a lot of old nasty oil, but I'd still just rather soak it, wash it, start with a clean head, then I'll start cleaning all my gasket surfaces up, and we'll get back to putting this together, but that won't be until tomorrow. Got the heads and the valve springs and the valves in the parts washer. I do need to add some more water to this to bring it up above the level because some of it evaporated off because I left the lid open on this one day and a lot of it evaporated off. We were up to the tray line there. If you don't have a parts washer, don't worry about it. Go to Walmart and get yourself one of these Cheapie plastic totes. Usually they're $5 to $10, and you could do all your parts washing in there, and then when you're done, you can put the lid back on it and keep your solution. I would not recommend the clear plastic ones. They're a more brittle plastic, so if you mess up and drop something, they tend to crack. These will usually dimple a little bit and give you a little bit more leeway. So there's a Cheapie tip for you. So we'll be back. The heads have been soaking for, I'd say, about 24 hours. And went ahead and pulled it out. Took it down to the garden hose, sprayed it off with water, brought it back into the shop, blew it all out with compressed air. It came up pretty clean. The reason the head surface on this side looks a lot cleaner, I already took a wire brush to it just to see what it looked like and double check to make sure there weren't any cracks anywhere. The head's fine. It's reusable. And let me go ahead and zoom in here on the valve seats. And I'm going to go ahead and put some light in here. When you're looking your heads over, before you go throwing any money into them, you want to check your valve seats. Now they cast the cylinder head, and the seats are put in afterwards and then machined to accept the valves. You want to go around here and make sure you don't have any heavy pits, any trenches cut, especially in your exhaust valves. And you want to eyeball it to make sure you don't see any cracks that could indicate that the seat could possibly come out. Same thing on your intake side. I went ahead and wiped this out with brake cleaner and a Scotch-Brite pad just to make sure I wasn't looking at dirt. And everything in here looks fine. There's a little bit of the dark spot there, but as you can see, it wiped away. So I would consider this particular cylinder and these particular valve seats okay to go ahead and lap my valves into. And valves get hand lapped in. That's the way everybody's been doing it for centuries. I've seen people take drills to them and rubber hoses and all that. You do you. That's all I can really say about that. I still do mine kind of the old-fashioned way. Yeah, that's too close. Still do mine the old-fashioned way with the old hand lapper. This is a really good one, even though it's wow, I keep doing that. But yeah, this is a really good one considering that it's plastic, but it is a K&D tool made in the USA. I have another one that I picked up from somewhere, and as you can see, the rubber on this one is already starting to crack and fall apart on both sides. And these suction cups, like, they suck. As you can see, there's a crack inside the seat. So they don't tend to stick to valves real good, so I'm just going to go ahead and throw that one in the garbage right now. But when you get to a point where you're looking for something like this, check out on Grandpa's Tools or yard sales or at swap meets and try and pick up an old one that still has decent looking suction cups on it, because these old ones still work great, just not too many people do this kind of work anymore. If you could pick a couple of them up cheap, keep them in your toolbox and use them. So how we're going to lap the valves in is you get some valve lapping compound. I realize you can't read that because this particular tube, I think I bought this back when James was a kid. We were both looking at it the other day. It's in a metal tube and it is old as crap, and I think he looked a date up on it and it was like 1998. So we're using the last of this up and it still cuts really good. So for lapping your valves in, I got one of my exhaust valves here. This is a brand new valve because the old ones had really heavy pitting around the outside edge, and I decided not to run them because if you have any leaks between your valve and your valve seat, you're going to have low compression and it's just going to be problems and you'll end up with a dead cylinder or a cylinder that isn't performing as well as the rest of them. So you take some of your valve lapping compound. You don't need to put a ton of it on here. I generally put more on than a lot of people do, but that's just me. I wanted to have a decent coat all the way around it. And we'll go ahead and we will drop the valve in. Let it sit all the way down. And what I'll do on the valve lapping tool is take a little tiny bit of oil. Don't quite need that much, but get your surface wet. Shake off the rest of it. And I'm going to scoot you guys over off to the side so I got some room to work here. I'll zoom you in a little bit, and I want you to pay attention and listen to how this thing sounds while I'm doing it. So when you first put it on there, you're going to hear it cutting. And if you just keep spinning it, you'll hear that the grittiness goes away. What you want to do when the grittiness goes away, pull out a little bit, rotate it, drop it back, and there's that sound again of it cutting. Keep doing the same thing. Very seldom have I had to reapply valve grinding compound to a head unless the seat was really, really bad and I just needed it to get by for a while. Like I had to go to work on Monday and it's Saturday and I'm trying to fix the car. But usually one application of it will get you a long way. And I'm putting downward pressure. So even the old ones slip every once in a while. Putting downward pressure on it while I'm lapping it in. I'm not forcing it into the head, but I am putting some pressure on it. And after doing this for a while, you can pull your valve out, take a look at your valve, take a look at your seat, and see how you're doing. So I will reach under here, pop the valve up, pull it on out, take it and wipe it down. And this is a valve that I haven't lapped. As you can see, it's a nice uniform color all the way across, uniform finish. This is the valve that I just lapped in. As you can see, it's got that darker part in here. And that line is very, very even all the way around. So I would consider that to be a decently lapped valve. Now I'm going to go in here and clean out my valve seat. And these heads are going to be washed one more time before I put it all together, just to make sure none of this grit is floating around, and I've still got to wire brush the head and get the paint off of it. Let me pop you off of here, and we'll get in there and take a look at that seat. Sorry about the lighting. It's one of them weird sunny days outside. But as you can see, that dark strip all the way around the outside is where my valve seat is contacting my valve. That's a great finish. That valve looks like it's going to seal very, very well. I've already done a few of the other ones, so I just have to continue on. I got an intake valve, 2 intake valves to do, and my final exhaust valve, and this process will be over. Then I can go ahead and clean the head off and get it ready for final assembly, which is putting the valves into it, the valve springs on it, and I wait till all the work, the dirty work is done before I paint it and put it on the block. So I'm going to go ahead and finish up this little bit of process. We'll come back, run a wire brush over it all, clean it up, see what it looks like, and then I'll be ready to put a coat of paint on it. But that's where I'm going to end the video, because everybody knows how to paint stuff. Got the heads all wire brushed down, took them outside, cleaned them off with water, brought them back in, blew them off. That's my final cleanup before I start to put these together. Over here in my bin, I've got all my valves labeled as to where they were lapped in at. You don't want to get them mixed up, because, you know, you set all these valves to a particular cylinder. One might be a little tiny bit off, and it might not want to seat on another valve seat. So keep everything organized. The first valve I'm going to start with on these will be the exhaust valve, since that's the furthest one up here. If I were to put this head on the engine, this would be cylinder number 2. This is the exhaust valve for cylinder number 2 right here. I'm going to go ahead and pull the keepers out and go ahead and pull the spring off of it. Take a little bit of oil, put it on my valve stem, run that around, put it in the valve, put it in the head, run that through. Now I've got new valve stem seals for this. I cheaped out and picked up the $20 Felpros, which are the umbrella type. Yeah, these are just the old Cheapie umbrella types. This isn't a forever engine. A lot of these kits will come with a little clear plastic tube that you put down over top of your valve stem to keep your valve stem, the sharp edges, from cutting your seal up. These aren't that sharp, so I'm not overly worried about it. I'll put a little bit more oil on here just for startup. Since these are exhaust valves, they've got a rotator on top of them. Since I just ran these through the solvent tank, inside this rotator might be a little bit dry. I'm going to put a couple drops of oil in there too. Give that a spin. Nice and smooth. So I'm going to go ahead and pop my spring on. Put it through like that. Grab my tool. Open it on up. Sometimes it helps to have 3 hands, but I was only born with 2. And we're going to go ahead and compress the valve spring. On stock valves, it's really easy. Once you start getting into performance valve springs, it gets a lot harder. We just got done putting the springs on the GT40 heads, and they got 130 pounds of closed pressure on them. They were quite a bit harder to get back on. So I've got my 2 keepers in here. And I'm going to go ahead and release the tool. Set it out of the way. See, one of my keepers moved on me. So, go ahead and do this again. That time it is in there. So that looks like it's in there good. Take a small hammer. Not on the valve. Around here, just to make sure they're seated good. And if you look in there, you'll see there's a nice even line on both sides. So this one is good to go. Take it and wipe off the excess oil. And now I've only got 7 more to go on this head. That's where I'm going to go ahead and wrap this video up. And one more little thing for you guys doing your heads at home. We've all got a tendency to use wire brushes on our cast iron. When you're using a wire brush on your cast iron, try to get a wire brush that's got some length on the bristles. Don't run one that's too tight, because they will chew cast iron heads up. And avoid coming straight in on it. As you can see, this one's kind of mutilated and the bristles are all pulled that way, because I'll run like this at an angle on the head to get the material off. And if you come to a spot where you've got a gasket stuck on there, grab your razor scraper, take it off again, re-hit it with the wire wheel. We also use roll-lock discs a lot, but on a set of old 305 heads, I'm not going to bother wasting one of those because they are not cheap. So that's going to take it for, that's going to do it for the quickie overhaul on these heads. What do I have in both heads? Well, bought the engine for $150. The heads I had to buy new exhaust valves for. They were $2.50 a piece. So let's just say that was 20 bucks right there in valves. My valve seals were $21. So that's 41 bucks. I got $41 in these heads. I did have to buy some nuts for the rocker arms because they were missing when I got the engine off the guy. But I'm not counting that in here because if you're buying a parts engine, it's most likely going to have the rockers and the nuts and everything else. Also had to buy a set of push rods for the engine because he used those on another engine and he put it in his truck. I think I paid 40 bucks for the push rods. They're just stock length push rods. There's nothing special going on with this engine. It's got a stock cam in it and it's an 89 305. So there wasn't any need for me to buy any super high performance stuff for it. But I'm going to go ahead and finish throwing this together. I'm going to let you guys go. And that's all I got for these old nappy cylinder heads. I will see you next time. And most likely what I'm going to be doing is finishing up on the block, putting this head on. But right now I'm going to finish putting the valves into it, throwing a coat of red paint on this. And the paint that I'm using is this Magic paint. I believe we picked this up at Tractor Supply because it's Massey Ferguson red. This was an old can that we had sitting around for a while, so I'm just going ahead and using this up, and it's plenty to finish this 305 build, and after that the can will probably be empty. So that was a $20 can of paint. I did the entire frame on my old F-150, plus it's doing this, and I know I painted a few things along the way, so the paint part of it is really inexpensive. That was maybe 20 bucks for that can of paint. But that's it. See y'all next time. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. And that's it for me. Later, folks.